Hi, this is Greg Anderson. I'm the broker at RE/MAX. Wanted to talk today about something that's kind of new and exciting and, well, new and interesting that's happening in the state of Minnesota. SF 2555 is a bill that passed the last legislative session, which would allow for what are called granny pods to be installed in homes in the state of Minnesota. Now, there's a lot of criteria around that, and this is not to be confused with the tiny houses. I think the tiny houses, a little bit like disco and mullets, may run their course. But the granny pod's more of an interesting concept. The basic premise, the bill was originally proposed by John Hoffman. He's a DFLer from Champlin, and Roz Peterson is a Republican from Burnsville. The idea was to be able to have grandma close by as she's recuperating from surgery, let's say. And so that's how the whole thing sort of started. They have these little modular units that come in, they're on a trailer, and they're equipped with a kitchen, a bedroom, an ADA accessible bathroom, and the medical types of apparatuses that the person would need. So what's happened is that bill actually passed with some caveats. So they have to have, the units have to be portable. It's a 6-month permit. They can be renewed for an additional 6 months. The buildings themselves can't exceed 300 square feet. They have to have a private septic or bathroom type thing. And one of the conditions is that they would have to have a permit or paid receipts rather for a service contract on it so that there's not an overflow. The exteriors of the units would have to be consistent with the exteriors in the neighborhood. They'd have to conform to setback requirements. What's interesting is it would not require a public hearing because the nature of these things can be somewhat fluid and very responsive. Somebody falls, they break a hip, they're on dialysis, whatever the types of issues are. At any rate, they also have to, there's a provision that the city have to allow this unless they opt out by September 1st. Now here in Chaska, there was, at the last council meeting, they voted to opt out. And what they want to do is they want to take kind of a wait and see approach. They want to see how some of the other municipalities are dealing with it, how they're dealing with some of the unforeseen issues that may come up as a result of this. I think it's a really interesting opportunity. It's not designed to create many care facilities. It can only be one unit per property, one person per unit. The attending healthcare provider has to be either a family member or a professional healthcare provider, and then the property or the pod would have to be on that person's property. So very interesting. Relatives would be defined as mother, daughter, wife's, husband, child, aunt, nephew, niece, nephew, including half relatives, stepchildren, and in-laws. So it's a really interesting thing. We're kind of, as the state of realtors, the Realtors Association is kind of taking a little bit of a step to kind of see how this whole thing unfolds too, because it's a really interesting conversation about property rights versus, for example, the rights of the neighbors to not have to look at these additional facilities. So it's going to be a really interesting thing. I'm kind of excited to see how this develops because after all, we're all getting older. Well, I am. We're all getting older, and that these things are going to become more and more in the forefront each year. So as always, if you'd like to discuss this at greater detail or drill down into any of these things, feel free to contact me. Thanks.